because because it's good to, if you know what you're doing when we do the frustrations, right? So one thing, while you are here, whatever I'm saying and you don't feel happy with it, or you think, no, that's really not what I want to do, it's fine. Just leave it. It's okay. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I forgot my thermos. It's in the room. The room is open and it's a blue thing. So thank you very much for getting it. So the more we respect something, the more we get from it. I mean, this is basically the purpose. So there are many things that are being said in Buddhism that, for example, might sound contradicting to your view that you already have. And then before you start mixing the views, it's really good to check what your view or your attitude, maybe attitude is a better word for it, what your attitude is giving you. Yeah, because as I said yesterday, we all want to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. So the Buddha was asking, when he was teaching, he was always asking people to check, right? But to check in a way, sometimes people say, well, also the Buddha said I shouldn't believe anything. No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that you shouldn't believe anything because, you know, I mean, why would he have taught, given so many teachings if you shouldn't believe anything? So, but he told people to check if what he's teaching, if that is bringing them nearer to the goal. Goal meaning lasting happiness. And lasting happiness, of course, at the beginning, you know, this is very far away. When you said yesterday, kind of throwing the negative emotions out of the window, right? This will last a long time until they're gone. So we don't have to be afraid of that, oh, all of a sudden they're gone and then I regret that they're gone. Yeah, so it will last a long time. But we study them and we see them as we see them that every situation becomes much more easy and much more relaxed and less complicated if these disturbing emotions are not in there as well. Yeah, and I think we all know that. We know that when there's a problem, because there are many problems that we need to solve all the time. Thank you very much. Because that is the nature of our existence. Because we lack awareness in seeing things the way they are. We distort. Everybody lives in its own world, basically. The way I see the world, nobody else sees it. But then my closed mind is creating a reality, thinking that everybody should see it that way, and then we can't understand why other people don't agree with us, right? So this is what we're trying to see. I mean, this is the main problem that we have. So when you start to work with those disturbing emotions, and you start to feel that they're actually decreasing, this is the way of checking. Checking means not just intellectually, but really checking out the methods, how to, at the beginning, definitely, you know, decrease them. And we will go through these steps, how one can do that. And then maybe you see a result. You see a result that your life has become happier or more relaxed or whatever. And then out of that comes the respect and the appreciation for the teachings. We see these methods as a very fine tool to actually become the person that we want to be. This is why I said yesterday, it is quite important that you know why you are here and what you want to achieve. And again, this morning and before every session, I will do a small reflection with you so that you become clear what you want. Yeah, and whatever I'm saying that contradicts what you believe or what you think is valid or what you learned or what you heard is fine. It's okay. There are many, many different views. There are many, many different paths. But what we all have in common is that we don't want to suffer and that we want to be happy. I think we can agree on that. Then what the Buddha said or what the Buddha taught is methods how to achieve that goal. So for some that fits, and for others that doesn't fit. So, but you can then take from this course whatever you find helpful, and whatever you don't find helpful, you just leave it. But then it, again, like everything else, it will not be complete. But you can use many, many Buddhist methods. And like scientists, psychologists, many, many people use these methods today. But the more you know about the whole thing, I think the more skillful you'll be in using the methods. Because these methods, some of them are very powerful. So they can become either medicine or poison. Yeah, like increasing our low self-esteem, depression, joylessness, or whatever. Yeah, you see what I mean? So this is why it's also good to be in a group and to discuss it with the others, what happens, to discuss with somebody who has been practicing for a while the progress that you're making or the non-progress, to share our experiences that we're making on this path. Because this path is not to be learned as just an intellectual kind of exercise and then you know something more. It can be done like this, of course, like everything else, but this path is made in order for us to be more open, more flexible, more free. Yeah, I think freedom is a good. Happiness is kind of, when we talk about lasting happiness, when I don't really know what this is all about, but when we start to use words like freedom, fearless, then maybe it makes more sense. Open, spacious, going with the flow instead of clinging to the past that was not exactly the way we wanted it to be, or staying in the present and working with what is there, and not allow the mind to be influenced with all the experiences from the past and all the fears of the future, which that is very much flavoring or coloring our reactions to present situations, because already we bring the fear of the future into it and the maybe painful experiences from the past. So this is why meditation is quite important on this path, because what you learn is to enhance your awareness, to be present, to see this mental factor that sees when a negative emotion arises. Yeah, and then we know, ordinary people like I say we because I include myself. I'm not realized or anything like that. I just know the methods, and since 20 years I'm trying to apply them, and I can see that they do actually work. As I said, maybe not as quick as I also would like them to work, but they do work, and so it's okay, right? So I have become a Buddhist because when I heard about these teachings, something clicked. Not because I'm so clever, because I'm not. But most probably, that's what I would assume, I must have heard it in previous lives. Because it felt very familiar. Although I had never really had Buddhist teachings before. I had read Buddhist books, but it never really clicked. It never really made me want to practice. It sounded interesting, but it was like very high and very complicated and all this. But when I did my first course, when I had it directly from somebody, this is why also this oral transmission is very much stressed. This is why still now, I know by now everything is on the internet, but just notice also when you are watching something on the computer and when you are here. Is it the same thing? It's totally different. Yeah. When you're just sitting in front of your computer, very quickly you get bored. And then all the thing, I have to do this, I have to do that. Then you get up and make yourself a cup of tea. You come back to the computer. Then the computer, it continues to teach. Then you put your washing machine on. Then maybe you make the shopping list. And then while it's still teaching, and somehow we have the idea, well, this guy or woman there is still teaching will get it, even though we're somewhere totally different. Can you recognize something? Because I am doing this. Okay, this is why video teachings are nice in a way, but if it's a whole course, I'm not strong enough to go through the whole course, I have to say. Audio, I find it kind of, at least I can do things while I'm listening, but I'm still distracted, so I'm not saying that I listen to it in a better way, but on the train or on the bus or something, then sometimes I catch one sentence and I work with that and I'm happy in a way. Yeah, so this is why this oral transmission kind of is still stressed. Because why? Because the group gives you energy. Yeah, you have the energy of the group to, for example, to stay in the meditation in the morning, even though you would like to get up and go. Yeah, but out of respect for the people around you, you stay. And then slowly you train the mind to sit. And then you can sit at home alone. Then it's okay. But if you start alone at the beginning, it's very, very difficult. Yeah. So then these prostrations, this showing respect, it actually teaches us or reminds us of the whole path. Yeah, like a structured way of transforming the mind, going step by step, so that you're not taking very potent medicine at the beginning when it would actually harm you because you're not strong enough to take it. So the basis of what we're trying to learn is to understand the two levels of existence, which is, you might have heard it, ultimate level and conventional level. And these levels, they go together. You cannot separate them from each other. Yeah. But they're not, if it's the ultimate level, then it is not the relative level. And if it's the relative level, it is not the ultimate level. But they're dependent on each other. But they're not the same thing, so don't mix it. So sometimes teachings, they talk about the ultimate level, that, in reality, ultimate level, usually they talk about reality of existence. They talk about it's empty, they're empty of inherent existence. You cannot find any objective existence. That's what they talk about. So then if you take that into the relative level and say, oh, but then there's no good and no bad, then you crash, because on the relative level, there is an I that wants to be happy. There is actions that are skillful, leading to happiness. There is actions that are unskillful, leading to unhappiness. So that's what we learn. And this is how the Buddha started teaching, by teaching the Four Noble Truths. So in the Four Noble Truths, everything is really solid and existing. True suffering, true causes, true cessation, and the true path. Because I think if we would have started talking about emptiness, people would have been too confused. Because in order to understand emptiness, it is good to have a mind who is quite stable and open. So that, and many of these negative emotions already quite subdued. Because if they are up, this feeling of I, me, when you're full of desire, attachment, jealousy, aggression, boredom, what else do we have? Depression, did I already say it? Maybe. When all these disturbing emotions are up, arrogance, yeah, this feeling of I is very, very strong. So then when somebody comes and says that I, actually, it only appears, but it does not exist, the mind is too solidified and too fixated on that I that you are able to understand what is being talked about. So this is why for quite a long time one actually practices the conventional level, taking care of our actions. When I said yesterday to start to have an ethical life. If one has understood that unethical behavior creates a lot of problems for me and for the others. I mean, this is why we have laws. This is why we are trying to force people to be ethical by punishing them with money or prison, isn't it? And there's quite a general consensus what ethical behavior is. It's not very complicated, because what is ethical behavior is like, don't do to others what you don't like to be done to you. It's as simple as that. somehow the systems of you have to or you're not allowed to don't seem to work. And even if there's punishment, I don't think, criminality has gone terribly down just because there's punishment, yeah? So even there is like the death penalty, but then still there is people who have to be killed. Then one says, okay, no death penalty, but then they have to rot in prison for the rest of their lives. That also doesn't help. So if we want the world to change, I think we have to make a conscious decision wanting to be ethical, and not just when it's convenient, but really in all situations as much as possible. By that, your mind calms down, and then you understand maybe how these medicines or how these practices works in a better way, because then it's also easier to apply patience and generosity and all this when your life is more or less okay. Okay? So this is what we're trying to understand, that there's actually two levels to existence. One is that they're empty of any inherent existence. Like also there's no separate I, that we have a conventional I, but there's no this very strong feeling of I, me, that separates us from others. And when it's paired, which is always when it's there, it's paired with either attachment or aversion, then we forget about the happiness of the other. We become very narrow. It's only about me, yeah? But when we look from this side, we don't notice it. It's only when it's directed at us, then you see that what this person is telling me is not quite true, yeah? Or at least you can understand the view or the attitude that this person has who is now angry at me is not the same as my view. Do you see what I mean? Just remember, somebody being not happy with you, shouting at you. Do you believe what this person says? Do you say, oh yeah, you're right, good thing you're shouting at me, so now I can change my behavior? Do we react like this spontaneously? No, nobody does. So we see it when it comes that way, how exaggerated that mind is, how narrow that mind is of the other person, how they don't want to listen to me, how close they are, and how they have zero interest in my happiness. We can see it. When it goes that way, we can't see it. Okay? So in order to understand these two levels of existence, like the lack of this seemingly self-existent I, but on the conventional side, yes, it is there. There's a conventional I who wants to be happy. So we need to do conventional methods in order to keep it happy, to make it happy. That's the methods. That's the second part of this, thing that we want to understand. How do we understand these two levels? By methods. And these methods, I mentioned it briefly yesterday, is compassion and wisdom. Wisdom for the ultimate side and compassion for the relative side. Or for the relative side, sometimes they just call it method. Because also knowing about karma goes into there, knowing about Four Noble Truths goes into there, and all these kind of things. Everything that we can grasp with our mind goes into with our conventional mind goes into the conventional side. Huh? Sorry. Huh?
Method side.
Method, yeah. Method, or skillful means, or whatever. Doing things, methods, yeah. And then we know the result of this, like understanding these two levels of existence through practicing compassion and wisdom. The result of this will be a total freedom from all disturbing emotions. Confusion, fear, anger, aggression, desire, attachment, craving, clinging, jealousy, arrogance, miserliness, all these kind of things. All these kind of things that make us narrow. Yeah. Again, any of these words that I just said now, we know their attitudes, their mental factors. Yeah? You know them. Yes? No? Is any of you has a wish to develop those? No. So we all recognize that they're not satisfactory, that they're not exactly what we want. So the goal is, but it takes a long, long time, so don't think 7 years is enough, okay? This is really a lifetime practice, and they talk about not just one lifetime, but many, many lifetimes, in order to eliminate these layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of habits and patterns that we have created by always going into the same direction, following these disturbing emotions, because we don't apply antidotes. Okay? So that will be the result. The result will be a mind that is totally clean, pure, free of these, what is called kleshas, or disturbing emotions that create unhappiness. But also the body of an enlightened being. I think he talked about what the Buddha is, no? Yeah, so then some of you already know it, I just repeat it. So to have the body of an enlightened being is like, there's different levels of these bodies. There's what is called the truth body, sometimes called, like Sanskrit, called the Dharmakaya. This is the mind of a fully awakened being. Then they have what is called the Sambhogakaya, and this is a rainbow body, like a body that came about through compassion, so that for us ordinary beings, we can have something that we can hold on to, something that we can visualize, something that can inspire us. So one does a lot of practices. For example, when you take refuge, when you say something like, I recognize the teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha as a valid method to lead me to the goal I want to get, meaning being free from all negative emotions, one actually visualizes the Buddha as a support. Yeah? So this is what is called the Sambhogakaya. But then they also have what is called an emanation body, that they can, and I know now it sounds a bit funky, that they can kind of manifest in many, many different forms, so that we can make direct contact with them. Yeah? And it's not always a kind person like the Dalai Lama. It can also be somebody who is seemingly harming us because we have to be stopped, or because we have to understand something. Okay? So when we do prostrations, then one also visualizes the Buddha as not as a statue or as something kind of a god or like this, but as a manifestation of perfected love, compassion and wisdom. Something that I also want to attain, or I also want to achieve. This is what we visualize. So when we prostrate, yes to the external Buddha, to somebody who was a human being just like us, lived 2,600 years ago, was really disturbed by this dissatisfying life. That no matter how much effort we make, everything always falls apart at the latest, at the time of death. Yeah? If we think, we accumulate so many things. For what? To leave them behind when we die. We create so many friendships and relationships and put a lot of energy into there. For what? To leave everybody behind that we rely on while we are still alive. We put a lot of effort into this body to keep it healthy. A lot of money is being spent on this body. Yeah, if you feel bored one day, sit down and make a list. How much money you already spent on this, just the food. And the medicine and all these supplementary things that we need to give it and all that, yeah? And for what? It dies at the end, yeah? So that's not really satisfying, isn't it? Because what we want, yesterday we looked and we said we wanted happiness. What it means also is lasting satisfaction. Did you notice that? This is why I didn't give you too many words. I wanted you to find out what happiness means for you. Did you find something, what it means for you? Keep looking if you haven't found anything. What does the word happiness mean for me? So we feel this craving, longing for freedom, space, satisfaction, peace, peace of mind, yeah? Or this longing to be good, to be compassionate. We do feel it, and when we are in contact with it, then we can call this happiness. Okay. So when we prostrate, we put the hands together, not like this, but like this, with the thumb inside, like that, yeah? So you have something outside and you have something hollow inside. So it reminds us of that we need to practice a path. And this path is the wisdom of recognizing the emptiness of all things, or the absence of inherent existence of all things, and the compassion or the method path. First starting by being ethical, by starting not to harm others, and then slowly, slowly, as our life is getting better and we have a lot of positive energy that we can share with others, then also helping others. So first, you always look after yourself before you kind of run out helping others, yeah? Because if you're not well, and if you're not together, and if you're not stable, helping others is combined with a lot of expectations what they should do for you. In order for helping others to become a safe thing, so that it doesn't turn sour, you need to have no expectations. You help for the sake of helping. But when this I is very strong and very unhappy, it goes out to help others very often because it wants a result. And if that result is not coming, it turns sour and you get angry. Yeah? And feel like, who? Huh? Yeah. And then you feel like the friar, and then you get double angry. How can I be so stupid having helped them? You know? Then the wisdom mind comes in and says, hey, but you helped. How wonderful. Yeah? How wonderful that you helped. Now you recognized nothing came back. It shows you your own expectations, that maybe your motivation was not that pure. Okay? So these are the methods that we're starting to apply. So when we look like the inside of the hand is hollow, this is the emptiness of disappointment, aggression, love, compassion. It doesn't exist from its own side. It's not separate, it's not dualistic, it's kind of, you know, it is a dependent arising, all this. And then the dependent arising, and the methods are like what we see is the form. Then we touch 3 places, or 4 sometimes. Here, then here, then here, and then here. Okay? So here, you touch here in order to get this, what is called, is Shakyamuni Buddha, this kind of muffin on his head. I think Sean called it the extra brain. So, but Buddha doesn't have a brain. Anyway, doesn't need to think. Everything in a clean, clear mind, which a mind is like clear and knowing, a knowing mind, a mind that knows reality as it is. They don't need to think, it just flows, it just comes automatically because what is in there is love, compassion and wisdom. Knowing that things are dependent on causes, but also wishing for all beings to be free from suffering and wishing for all beings to be happy. This is what a fully awakened being is. Needs to have these 2 aspects, not just compassion. Also the wisdom side, knowing about reality. So here, this is then you get this one sign. You know, they say like the emanation body of a Buddha has 32 major and 80 minor signs. So one of them is this, what is called Ushnisha here. Yeah. Okay, so that's this touching. Then if you touch here, you visualize white light is coming from the Buddha, purifying your negative actions of your body, which then we will talk about when you talk about karma, what these actions are. Or maybe also in this weekend we'll touch on them. When you touch this place, you visualize that purifying red light is coming from the Buddha's throat to purify your negativities of speech. When you touch your heart, you purify the negativities of the mind, and that is blue light. Okay? So this wish to purify already signals to your mind, I want to be free from doing negative actions with my body, speech and mind. So it already gives you some energy to go on that path. And then if you are really able, by kind of having devotion to the Buddha, not as a god. Yeah, we have to be careful here. Not as a god who can wash you free of your sins, but as a source of inspiration that makes us do the right things in order to attain that goal. Yeah? If we see him as a source of inspiration, and with this devotion, when these two things come together, like the power of a fully awakened mind, who is not only potent, but can inspire us, and our devotion, when that comes together, quite a lot of things can happen, like the purification can really happen. So this is why we do it. Then you go down on your 4 places. I will get up and show you then. Like first the hands, then the knees, then the front. So that again, it symbolizes that you want to purify what is called the 5 contaminated aggregates. Or your contaminated body and mind. We have a body because at the time of death we crave for existence. The mind that goes into subtle state, together with the imprints, is kind of looking for a next existence. Unfortunately, this looking for the next existence is not pervaded by wisdom and compassion, but by the last few moments of your mind, which flavor the continuity of the mind. So this is why we do quite a lot of seminars or courses on how to die peacefully, because it's very important. Because the mind state at the time of death flavors the next moment, same as it does in life. If you go to sleep with a very angry mind, then your dreams most probably will not be filled with bliss. Yeah? So like that, it kind of influences. The moment now influences the next moment, but then that again has changing and changing and changing. But it can get worse, it can get better, or whatever. So these 5 places are kind of symbolize the 5 contaminated aggregates, or we can just call it 5, the body and the mind, yeah, which are samsaric, or which are bound to suffering, which are not satisfactory. Purifying them into, purifying the 5 poisons, which are wrong views, attachment, aversion, jealousy, and pride. Each one has to do with one aggregate, and it's quite complicated, but maybe as we go along we will talk about these things also. To purify them into something pure, meaning being free of these things. When you come up from down there, well, from having been down, you come up very quickly, and it signifies, or it symbolizes, coming out of this state of what is called samsara, this cyclic existence, where we have no control where we are reborn. We have no control what is happening to us. What is controlling us is the results of our past actions and our present negative emotions. So this coming up very quickly symbolizes coming out of that fast, and then you sit down and do your meditation or your practice or whatever. And ideally this is done at least 6 times a day, like in the morning when you get up and you do your altar, and in the evening before you go to sleep. So at least 2 times a day it reminds you of your path. But what we especially prostrating to is our own potential to attain that state. This is why we're prostrating. On one hand, yes, to show respect to the Buddha, but why do we show respect to the Buddha? Because I want to attain that same goal, not with an attitude, oh, poor sinner me down here, and the high and mighty Buddha, I will never be able to get there. It's to get us the fuel or the energy to keep going on this path, so that we will reach there. So this is why prostration is very much part of a Buddhist practice. Whether it will still be part of a Western Buddhist practice in 100 years, I don't know. For the moment, we still do it, but you should not do it if you don't want to do it. It's like with everything else. Yeah, do not force your mind to do anything that you feel strong rejection towards, or you think like, I don't want to do this. it keeps you, especially if you're lazy like me, and you don't like to do like physical exercises, it keeps you flexible, even in, even though if you would have stopped long ago to do anything, at least I do something. And also I can feel when I do long prostrations, like many, not just 3 like we do at the beginning, when I do a lot of them, I can really feel that it does purify something in the energy channels. So doing long prostrations, and they have to be quite precise, it is a bit like doing yoga, like it works with your energy channels, but also with your mind, because you do the purification. Also with your speech, because you kind of recite the names of the Buddhas, for example. Okay? Does it make it a bit clearer why one does prostrations, for those who have never heard about this? Or do you have questions to that? Because it's quite important. Because I know that you have, in Judaism, there's a thing that says you're not allowed to bow to idols. Yeah? So then, of course, since you're very good Jews and you hold all the laws, then of course you get upset. That was cynical, okay? You get upset when you see other people, especially Jews, prostrating. So don't worry so much about their karma. They prostrate, or I prostrate, because I want to attain a mind which is free from all suffering. This is why I prostrate. So that I don't harm anybody. Free from all suffering meaning free from all wrong concepts, and free from kind of making the split between me and them. I'm doing these prostrations to generate and develop a heart that is open to all beings, and if I can help, to help selflessly. I'm not there. This is why whatever method I can take to help me to get there, I take, and this is why I prostrate. Also, I'm not Jewish, so you don't have to worry about my karma. And for you now, if you want to prostrate with me, we can do 3 prostrations together. If you'd rather not, keep sitting, it's fine. But keep the mind, if you can, in a neutral state. The same way as you keep your mind in a neutral state when, for example, you like strawberry ice cream and somebody likes vanilla ice cream. You see somebody eating strawberry ice cream, it's not a problem, is it? Or is it a problem? Do you need to convince that person that vanilla ice cream is better? I, on purpose, didn't take the issue of eating meat or not eating meat. Like, as a vegan, if you see somebody eating meat, is your mind in a neutral state? Probably not. But ice cream, or if somebody prefers pizza margherita to pizza napoletana, whatever, you leave them, yeah? Sometimes. Sometimes not, Even that, our mind is not in a neutral state. We go to a restaurant that I know, we bring a friend that doesn't know the restaurant. Oh, you should eat this. And then I said, but no, you should really try this. We mean it for the best for the other person, of course, but we really interfere. So keeping the mind in a neutral state, meaning you let other people do what they want. If you see somebody harming somebody else and you can interfere, then don't keep your mind in a neutral state. Interfere, but interfere with calmness and compassion for both people, or for both sides, not just for one side and with a lot of aggression, right? But here, I think with the prostrations, we really have an occasion where we can train to keep the mind in a neutral state if you either like to do the prostrations and then you look at the ones who don't, or if you do not want to do them and then you look at the ones you do. Yeah? Because it goes both ways. Yeah? So it's everybody's own business what they want to do. Now I'm showing you how to do these prostrations facing that way. If you would be Tibetans, you would go like this. Because you don't want anybody to prostrate to you, because these prostrations are meant for realized beings. When sometimes the teachers are already sitting and then you prostrate, then you would not prostrate to the teacher as a person, but you would prostrate to what you get. And for Asian people, especially for Tibetan, this bowing and standing up when a teacher comes in is so part of their culture that even like Dagyab Rinpoche, who's a Rinpoche, is a very high being, people bow to him wherever he goes, but he came to Germany as a refugee in the 1950s, beginning 60s, I think. and he received German lessons. So when the teacher came in, well, of course he got up, even though the teacher is like in status much lower than him. But in order to have an open mind to what this teacher has to say, you know, the mind, which is full of respect and happy to get something, makes the body get up. So he was the only one standing up. So, you know, they're all grown-up people. So everybody was looking at him. And he said, I cannot not get up when a teacher comes in. It's actually quite a nice attitude. And we have lost this attitude. And if the children have respect for teachers, it would bring so much benefit. The job of the teacher would be so much easier. They would have so much more joy to teach. There would be clear communication between the two, and the ones who would really benefit would be the children. Yeah. But somehow we lose it. But we can generate it even when you're old. We can kind of generate it again. Yeah. So I will prostrate this way first, so that you see how it is done if you want to do it, and then I'll prostrate that way. And then if you do have questions, when I sit down, you can ask them about prostrations. Otherwise, we start with the teachings on the open heart, like that. And then I will, every morning when I come, I will do 3 prostrations. If you want to do with Yanai, the prostrations in the morning, you can also. Then, okay. If you want to, in the evening, do 3 prostrations before you go out, this is also fine. Yeah. For the others, when you see it, leave these people, just do whatever they want. It's not harmful, isn't it? Eating vanilla ice cream instead of strawberry ice cream, it's not harmful, it's okay. Okay? Okay. Now I have a new knee, which is artificial, which doesn't do what I want it to do. And I have an old knee, which is not artificial yet, which also doesn't do what I want it to do. So, what is great about this is that I used to be very, very proud about the way I was doing prostrations. They were so exact, so swift, so flexible, and the long ones I could just do like zoom, 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 zoom. That arrogance, at least, is gone. So I can't even push myself up again in one go. Very often, I need 2 goes with the hands. Okay, so this is how you hold your hands. Then you go here, you go here, you go here, and you go here. So this is white light, purifying negativities of the body, that we've already done. Here, purifying negativities of the speech, that we do a lot of them. This is why also it's good to be in silence. So at least there is a break there, a little bit of negativities of speech. And then the negativities of the mind is blue light. Yeah. So you visualize Shakyamuni Buddha, not like this, but more in a form of light, like in the light body, or just like trying to have these qualities there, love, compassion, and wisdom. And this is what you're prostrating to. Yeah? Not to impress the Buddha or to make him happy. He doesn't need to be prostrated to. But in order for us to open up, to be able to receive the teachings if we want to attain same state. So here, then here's white light, here's red light, here's blue light. Then you go down, hands not like this, hands also not like this, hands also not like this, but flat on the first on the hands, then on the knees, and then you put your front to the ground also, and then you come up very quickly. Oh, I did it in one go. I really have to pull myself together. That's the first time, then second time. And as you push yourself up, you can see that you're dragging the hands a little bit on the ground. That means you're taking everybody out of the suffering state with you. So just this very simple gesture can put imprints on the mind that then makes the mind go in that direction. Yeah, after many, many, many prostrations. Okay, so if you want to prostrate with me.
Can I ask?
Yeah. No, it's okay.
What if I become dizzy?
Yeah, that means you have low blood pressure. That means you have low blood pressure, and you get dizzy. And as long as you don't, does the dizziness stay, or does it then go? Yeah, and so it's just a sign of. It's the same way. You get up quickly, then that's it. So that's okay. But if you faint, then better stop. You don't want to harm